There is a tribe in the Himalayas where one woman marries multiple brothers from the same family simultaneously. There is a culture in southern China where marriage barely exists at all, and children are raised almost entirely by their mother's relatives. And yet both of these societies, as different as they are, still have rules about who belongs to whom. Why does that boundary keep appearing, no matter how differently people draw it? The answer goes back to a problem that every early human group had to solve: survival. Ancient humans didn't live alone.
They lived in small bands, and those bands needed to cooperate to eat, to defend themselves, and to raise children who were completely helpless for years. That cooperation depended on knowing who was responsible for what, and especially who was responsible for whom. The first reason marriage-like rules appeared is resource commitment. Raising a child in a hunter-gatherer environment takes an enormous amount of food, protection, and time. A mother alone couldn't reliably do it. So early groups developed arrangements that locked at least one other person, or a set of people, into that commitment. The Himalayan example, where brothers share one wife, is actually a response to exactly this. Land was scarce, and splitting it between brothers would have meant everyone starved. One shared arrangement kept the land and the resources intact. The second reason is social order. Without clear rules about sexual access and family belonging, conflict inside the group would have been constant.
Early humans weren't peaceful by nature. Competition over mates is one of the most reliable triggers for violence across primates. Clear boundaries reduced that internal conflict, which meant the group was more stable and more likely to survive long enough to pass anything on. The third reason is lineage, knowing who inherits what and who carries the group forward. This is the part people tend to overlook. Marriage wasn't originally about love or even primarily about the couple. It was about the group's ability to track descent, to know whose children were whose, so that property, alliances, and obligations could be passed down in an orderly way. That's why in many early societies, marriage was arranged between families, not individuals. The deal was between groups, not hearts. The fourth reason, and this is the one that explains why the pattern keeps showing up in such different forms, is alliance. When two people from different families or clans married, their groups became tied to each other. That meant trade, mutual defense, and access to new territory.
Marriage was, for a long time, the primary technology for building political relationships between groups. So what you're left with, when you strip it back, is this. Marriage, as a concept, didn't come from romance. It came from the fact that humans needed a structured way to share burdens, reduce internal conflict, track who belongs to a family, and form alliances with other groups. The form it takes, one partner, several, or something else entirely, varies enormously across cultures. But the underlying function, creating binding commitments between people so that groups can hold together, is remarkably consistent. The rules differ. The need for rules doesn't.